There is a moment in every relationship when something changes. Not dramatically, not loudly, not in the middle of a fight or a painful conversation. It happens quietly, almost invisibly. One day, you look at the person next to you, the same person you used to think about constantly, and something feels different. Not broken, not gone, just slightly out of place. Like a painting on the wall that has shifted half an inch, and you can't quite explain why it bothers you, but it does. Most people never figure out what caused that shift. They blame stress, they blame time, they blame growing apart. But in a large number of modern relationships, the real reason is sitting right there in the palm of your hand. It has a screen. It has notifications. It has a like button. And it has been quietly, methodically, and almost invisibly rewiring both of you from the inside out. Let's be honest about something first. Social media was never designed to make your relationship stronger. It was designed to keep you engaged, to keep you scrolling, to keep you coming back. And the way it does that is by feeding one of the most powerful psychological drives a human being has: the need to feel seen, to feel valued, and to feel interesting to other people. That need is not a flaw. It is deeply human. But what happens when that need starts getting met outside of your relationship? What happens when the validation that used to come from one person, the person who chose you, the person sleeping next to you, starts arriving in small, steady doses from strangers? That is where the story really begins. Because most couples do not fall apart because of betrayal or conflict. Most couples fall apart because of something far more subtle. A slow, quiet emotional drift. A gradual redistribution of attention. A shift so small that neither person notices it happening until they look up one day and realize they are standing miles apart, wondering when they stop crossing the distance between them. Social media does not cause this drift, but it accelerates it. It deepens it. And it makes it almost impossible to reverse without first understanding exactly what it does to the psychology of attraction. To understand this, you have to understand how attraction actually works. Attraction is not just physical. It is not just emotional. At its core, attraction is fundamentally about attention. Where your attention goes, your emotional energy follows. And where your emotional energy consistently flows, that is where your sense of connection, warmth, and desire eventually lives. For most of human history, that attention had a very limited number of places it could go. Your community, your family, the person in front of you. Social media changed the entire architecture of human attention. Now, within seconds of waking up, a person can receive a compliment from someone they have never met. They can post a photo and watch numbers climb. They can exchange messages that feel electric and interesting. Conversations that carry the natural intensity of novelty, the feeling that comes not from depth, but from the freshness of something new. And here is the first behavioral shift that most people ignore. In the early stages of this pattern, nothing feels wrong. The attention from social media feels harmless, even fun. Your partner is still there. You still love them. You are still present in the relationship, physically at least. But emotionally, something has begun to divide. Think of your emotional attention like a budget. You only have so much of it. Every meaningful interaction costs something. Every place you invest it expects a return. And when a portion of that budget starts flowing toward online validation, toward strangers who comment on your photo, toward conversations that carry zero emotional responsibility, there is less available for the relationship sitting right in front of you. This is the first stage, and it is almost always invisible. Here is where things actually start changing. Not in behavior, not yet. In expectation. The human brain is adaptive in ways that are both remarkable and deeply inconvenient. When you consistently receive a certain kind of stimulus, your brain recalibrates what it considers normal. What once felt exciting becomes routine. What once felt like enough begins to feel insufficient. This is called hedonic adaptation, and it is one of the most quietly destructive forces in modern relationships. When someone spends significant time receiving validation online, likes, comments, reactions, admiration from strangers, their brain begins to calibrate toward that kind of attention. Fast, frictionless, consistent. And then they come home, and their partner is tired. Their partner is distracted. Their partner does not compliment them every day because that is what real intimacy looks like: comfortable, warm, but sometimes quiet, sometimes ordinary. But the brain that has been conditioned by the steady drip of online validation does not experience that ordinariness as comfortable anymore. It experiences it as a deficit, And this is the moment, this exact psychological recalibration, where attraction begins to quietly erode. Not because the relationship has gotten worse, but because the internal standard against which it is being measured has shifted. Let us go deeper, because this is where most people misunderstand what is actually happening. When we talk about social media and relationships, the conversation almost always goes to jealousy, to inappropriate messages, to emotional affairs. And yes, those things exist. But they are the dramatic, visible surface of a far more widespread and far less discussed phenomenon. The real damage is psychological. It is structural. And it operates on a level that most people never consciously examine. There is a concept in psychology called the validation loop. A validation loop works like this. You post something. You receive positive feedback. Your brain releases a small amount of dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, reward, and motivation. That dopamine hit feels good. So you seek it again. You post again. You check again. You scroll again. Over time, this loop becomes a psychological habit. Not a conscious choice, a neurological pattern. And here's what that pattern does to a relationship. When you are inside a validation loop, your brain is constantly in a low-grade state of seeking reaction, seeking confirmation, seeking the next hit of external approval. That seeking state is fundamentally incompatible with the settled, secure, inward-facing energy that deep intimacy requires. Real connection asks you to be present, to be still, to invest without guaranteed return. The validation loop trains the opposite. It rewards constant seeking. It punishes stillness with boredom. It makes depth feel slow and inadequate compared to the rapid stimulation of a notification screen. And this is what slowly poisons attraction, not drama, not betrayal. A neurological habit that quietly makes your real relationship feel less stimulating than it actually is. There is also something else happening beneath the surface. When someone receives consistent attention from strangers, online admiration from people who do not know their flaws, who do not see them on their worst days, who only see the curated, filtered version they choose to present, something dangerous begins to happen to their self-image. They start to develop what psychologists call an inflated social self, a version of themselves that exists only online, one that receives more admiration, more engagement, more emotional intensity than their real life consistently provides. And when that inflated social self becomes the primary reference point for how lovable or desirable they believe they are, the real relationship, with all of its beautiful imperfection and unglamorous honesty, begins to feel diminishing rather than grounding. This is the psychological trap that social media quietly sets for millions of people in relationships every single day. Now let us pull back and look at the broader human picture, because this is not about any one person. This is not about being weak-willed or unfaithful or emotionally immature. This is about what happens when an entire generation of human beings has their deepest psychological needs, the need for validation, the need for novelty, the need to feel attractive and interesting, routed through an algorithm that was designed not by therapists or relationship experts, but by engineers optimizing for engagement metrics. The result is that millions of relationships are quietly suffering from a form of emotional inflation. The bar for what feels stimulating keeps rising. The threshold for what feels like enough keeps moving. And the real, grounded, beautifully ordinary love that sustains a long-term relationship keeps getting measured against an increasingly unrealistic standard. Think about emotional novelty for a moment. Attraction in its early stages is powered by novelty, the unknown, the undiscovered, the electric uncertainty of something new. This is neurologically documented. New romantic connections activate the same brain regions as certain stimulants. The feeling is real, but it is also temporary. It was never designed to last forever. Deep, lasting love is powered by something different, by familiarity, by trust, by the quiet comfort of being known. It does not produce the same neurological fireworks as novelty, but it produces something far more sustaining, a sense of security, of home, of emotional safety that no amount of stranger validation can actually replicate. The problem is that when the brain has been conditioned by the constant novelty stimulation of social media, new faces, new comments, new content every few seconds, it becomes genuinely difficult to feel satisfied by the quieter, deeper rewards of committed love. And this is the emotional trap that modern relationships are walking into without realizing it. So what does this actually mean for real relationships? It means that two people can love each other genuinely, deeply, sincerely, with real intention and still watch their attraction slowly fade, not because something is wrong with their love, but because something is wrong with their attention patterns. It means that emotional distance in modern relationships rarely begins with a dramatic event. It begins with a phone in the hand at dinner. It begins with checking notifications before saying good morning. It begins with the small, repeated choice to seek stimulation outward instead of investing attention inward. And it compounds quietly. The partner who feels ignored begins to withdraw. The partner who is withdrawing does not notice because their attention is already elsewhere. Both people become lonelier within the relationship. Both people begin to mistake that loneliness for incompatibility. And eventually, both people may genuinely believe they have simply grown apart, never recognizing that they did not drift. They were pulled. Ask yourself this honestly. When was the last time you sat with your partner, no phones, no screens, no scrolling, and simply paid attention to them? Not to be entertained, not to be stimulated, just to be present with another human being who chose you? Because that kind of attention, slow, unhurried, unconditional presence is the exact opposite of what social media trains us to offer. And it is also, perhaps not coincidentally, the exact kind of attention that makes people feel deeply loved. Here is what I want you to sit with long after this ends. At what point does emotional distance actually begin? Is it the first time you checked your phone instead of engaging in a conversation? Is it the first time you felt more excited by a notification than by the person in front of you? Or does it begin even earlier, the moment you started needing external validation more than you needed genuine connection? And the second question, do people leave relationships suddenly? Or do they disappear emotionally first, long before they ever say a word? Because in most cases, the answer is not a sudden departure. It is a slow, quiet withdrawal, a gradual dimming, a person becoming increasingly absent while still physically present. Their emotional attention spread so thin across so many digital spaces that there is simply not enough left to sustain the connection that once felt effortless. That is the quiet tragedy of the validation loop. It does not steal love all at once. It just slowly starves it of the one thing love cannot survive without: attention. There is something deeply human about wanting to be seen, about wanting to feel attractive, interesting, worthy of someone's gaze. That need did not arrive with social media. It has been with us since the beginning. But there is a difference between the validation of strangers, fast, frictionless, and fundamentally shallow, and the quiet, profound recognition of someone who truly knows you. The person who sees you on your worst days and stays anyway. The person who does not love the filtered version of you, but the actual one. That kind of love does not announce itself with notifications. It does not reward you with dopamine spikes. It simply exists, steady and real, in the space between two people who have chosen, repeatedly and without audience, to pay attention to each other. And maybe the most important thing social media has quietly taught us, without meaning to, is how rare and how extraordinary that kind of attention actually is. The question is whether we recognize it before we lose it.